Hello, and welcome to InTrend, a USLI podcast where we discuss the latest trends, ideas, and insights facing the insurance industry. I am your host, Melissa Kanbayashi, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Tom Nerney, Chairman, President, and CEO of USLI, to talk about delivering speed, ease of use, and accessibility within the insurance industry. Tom joined USLI in 1996 after previously serving as President and COO for Philadelphia Insurance Company. He holds an MBA in finance from St. Joseph's University and completed his undergraduate studies at Cabrini College. Throughout his career, Tom has received numerous honors, including receiving the Franklin Award from the Philadelphia chapter of the CPCU Society and being inducted into the Haub School of Business Hall of Fame at St. Joseph's University. In addition to his leadership in the insurance industry, he is an active member in the greater Philadelphia community, having founded two nonprofit organizations, A Front Row Seat to Learning and the Nerney Family Foundation, and served on many boards, some of which include LaSalle Academy, the Academy of Risk Management and Insurance at St. Joseph's University, Mainline Health Systems, the Nerney Leadership Institute at Cabrini University, and the Institute's Risk and Insurance Knowledge Group. This is an episode you're not going to want to miss. Let's dive in. Hello, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us on InTrend. We're so excited to have you on this podcast.
I'm really happy to be here today, Melissa. Thank you, and thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. So USLI has long focused on being the number one service provider in the insurance industry. So what inspired the speed, ease of use, and accessibility messaging to our customers?
It's a very, very good question. I think 30 years ago, when we were trying to find our place, like where did we want to set out and kind of get after, the industry sort of told us that overall the industry was very slow. It was very, very difficult to get a submission out. And so we decided at that time, we weren't that smart then to know that there were some other important components to it, but it was all driven on speed. And that was our initial effort. Could we be faster than anybody else in the industry in getting the submission in and getting the quote out? And that was it. And from that, all sorts of things. You learn a lot over the time, and you add on to that, and you come up with something that becomes sort of the core of the message of what we were trying to do. We were attempting to solve this dilemma on speed, but more broadly, the industry kept saying to itself that they couldn't make money and they were not efficient on small business. And I wish I could say that 30 years later we have solved that problem, which we have not, which I think gives us great opportunities for the next 30 years.
Right.
But it's been very, very, I think, important for USLI because it has given us clarity, direction, and areas for which we can really dig into day in and day out. So
you mentioned with speed, faster quoting, faster responses, but is there a deeper meaning behind that as well?
there is today. There really wasn't at that time. But I think one thing we have learned is just about every initiative that we have undergone, whether it's been something internal or something that started external, we've learned over time that we really benefit from that on both sides, internal and external. So our whole focus was with the customer. How do we wow them? How do we get these things out? And I think over time, and probably I would say to you, for me, I've been trying to stress at each business planning session and every time I have an opportunity that we should be living speed internally ourselves in the way in which we respond to each other, the way in which we can stay agile in comparison to other companies, and just being able to get things done and move on. I just think that's a very, very important thing. And so the speed component and the ease of use and accessibility, all that has become very, very, I think, profoundly important to the internal operations within USLI as well as what we're doing externally.
Right. Staying with speed, how do we balance that with maintaining accuracy and strong underwriting discipline?
In the beginning, we had very few products. And so we decided at that time to try to come up with a definition of what a good one looked like. So if we had a not-for-profit organization and we were providing and trying to understand it, we would try and define what we thought a good one looked like. And that became our underwriting criteria.
Okay.
And then we really got aggressive and said, we'll even do a little bit more than that if it met these other qualifications.
Right.
And then we had a long list of those that didn't qualify. And so that enabled us, I gave it some freedom that we were underwriting, but we weren't in the same mindset that we needed all these other things that traditionally the insurance industry had asked for. And we tried to minimize that as best we could. And so I think staying focused, keeping things as simple as we could, and then really getting out and visiting our customers and explaining to them what we did well. That was the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle is that the industry really just wanted to send us something and they wanted us to do it.
Right.
And we were like, no, 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 that's not how we operate. And they said, well, that's not how we operate. And so that was really the biggest conflict, if you would. And it took us time, but that time, it's always the harder stuff that pays off the greatest dividend. And we stayed committed to that and that clarity. And I can tell you that customers over time, when I would visit them, they'd say, the fact that you know exactly what it is that you want is the biggest benefit that we get in doing business with you. Because we're not wasting time trying to convince you, or we're not listening to you say, well, let me take a look at it and I'll see what I can do. And then it drifts away for 2 or 3 weeks. We get an answer.
Right.
And that answer gives us the ability to know what we need to do. We'll get that from USI or we won't. And that was very, very helpful. So as we built more products, and at one point in time, we were bringing out at least 7 with our minimum goal per year. We followed the same. We had a very engaging, they're my words. I think that maybe the people who participated in those product development meetings would have not used that word, but they were tough.
Right.
We really challenged people to know, why is this a good idea? What do you know about it? What's the market? What's the opportunity? We wanted to make sure that there were enough of them and they met a certain size that we could use our speed plan in a way that, to answer your question, that we weren't leaving too much underwriting behind. And so it was the simplicity or the attempt to create a simplistic but yet purposeful solution to small business that we could bring to the marketplace. And we were evolving and developing that over time. So,
Right.
so today we have 30 years of experience, 30 years of data. We know what we did well, what we didn't do well. And I'll tell you this, I know for a fact that where and when we took a vertical and broadly attacked it, we've never made money at it. Where we started small and grew over time as we learned more about it, and we had the discipline and patience to do that, we've made the most. There were 4 products that were on our loss review agenda for 30 years. And they were the same 4. And those 4 were attacked that broadly methodology that never really worked. And it's very, very difficult to sort of start here in very wide and thinking that you can take all these in. It's community associations as an example. It took time to sort of back down and be able to define in the reverse order what a good one looks like. And then sometimes that gets difficult to do.
Right. So with speed, what types of internal changes needed to be made, whether it be to technology or decision making, in order for speed to come alive?
which started out by saying, okay, our new mandate is we're going to get quotes out in, 3 days. And everybody thought that we were nuts. So once you got beyond the nuts part about that whose idea was this, um, it became a combination of things. And we went from 3 days to 24 hours to in by 2, out by 5 to 3 hours to a rolling 3 hours. So each one of them we never achieved it through technology on its own or processes on its own. They were helpful, but they just didn't get us there. Every single time we got there because the people made the decision to make it happen. And those tools were helpful, but it was the human decision to say, we got this. And when they did that, we did it. And in every phase. And so, yeah, so it's a combination of things, but at the end of the day, which drives the belief in the human to me at the highest level.
Right.
Because you can, I think, accept mediocrity through technology and processes, but the real lift comes from the human person that really adds that extra value to it that you just can't create.
Right. That personal
That
connection.
personal
Right.
connection, that personal lift, that personal drive, that, yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Right. So speed is extremely important to winning business, but so is ease of use. So what main friction points did USLI seek to simplify?
Ease of use was something that came along as customers gave us feedback. We thought we had a simple process, and they explained to us that it wasn't that simple, and that it was a little more complex. And so we had to listen to some of that and find ways of, you know, getting to that point. And that took time. We really focused for many, many years on the speed. The ease of use came as a result, as I said, as we got more products, we wanted to try to be a larger answer to our customer, and they gave us the constructive feedback that we needed to get a little bit easier to do business with. And that drove that. And that's an endless mission, much like speed. The ease of use is very, very personal. And so you really do need to work at it all the time. And just in an answer to try to do that a little better than anyone else is to try to really understand the customer. If you can understand the customer and stand in their shoes and empathize with their world, I think it helps you to get a little bit more creative to that answer. Like, what ease of use things should we be doing? What should we be eliminating? How can we make this easier for our customer to do business with us?
So we've tackled speed, we've tackled ease of use. With respect to accessibility, why is accessibility so important?
And again, accessibility came, from the customer. They got this quote, and they had questions, and they couldn't do anything with the quote unless we could answer the questions. And so that clarity, that continual availability was something we worked towards. And today, as we look at the various platforms that we have email submissions, we have web, we have phone, and those are the choices that we've given to our customers. And if we could come up with 2 or 3 or 5 others, we would bring that out. But in each of those platforms, there is an ease of use component, and there's an accessibility component to it. Email, they want a response quickly to the email. Maybe that's the way they're going to prefer to communicate with that question. Or they want to call you as the underwriter and see if they can't get an answer right then and there. Or they want to move to a chat from a web or from a phone because that works for them, and that has developed our whole chat initiative. But all of that is part of accessibility. How do we make ourselves as available as we possibly can, as quickly as we can, answer the question for our customers so that they can sell the account? And that's really the components.
How do we ensure that accessibility doesn't just mean digital convenience, but also a personal connection?
Yeah. I think we talk more about that personal connection first and foremost. We drive that. We we know through our metrics that that human engagement, that human interaction trumps any other form of response. Uh, and so, whenever we can, that's what we're trying to do. Phone quote is a great example because when you have someone on the telephone, you're speaking to them, they're giving you information, you're asking them additional questions about clarity on a piece of information, you're getting a better picture. You end up with, so we have a much more significant quote to submit on phone. We have a higher bind to quote on phone. And I do think that's driven by that human interaction from the very, very beginning. So we are trying to find ways. It's hard when you're doing 1.5, 1.6 million submissions to sort of say, okay, we're going to engage with a human being on every single one. If we could figure that out, we could even be better than we are.
Right.
We haven't gotten there yet, but we're working on it. So uh, stay tuned.
So I think you touched upon it earlier as well, but what type of mindset or leadership shift needed to happen in order to make this speed, ease of use, and accessibility come to life?
We've learned, over time that you generally achieve what you emphasize. So it is, I would have to say to you that it is a continual emphasis. Um, I think that, without that in front of you, without that being driven, it's easy to drift towards a place where you feel you're doing okay, but you're not doing great. And our model is really built on wowing the customer. I mean, we cannot be the lowest price in every county in the United States of America on every product that we have. That's just not a model that we can live to. So our speed, ease of use, and accessibility is what we're trying to live up to. And that is something that we have to keep in the forefront. But, you know, the busyness of the day, the things that happen in the day can, as much as you care to keep that in the front of your brain, it can go sideways on you. And so we do need to continually emphasize it. And that's I don't see any other way to do it.
That sounds like it's a work in progress
It's
every day.
it's a continuous work in progress every day. And you need to give people the understanding as to why. And the consistency of our performance has led to a huge fan base. But like most fan bases, time changes that. So the fan base that we have today is not the same fan base that we had 10 years ago. So we can't live off of what we did then. We have to really create new fans today. And so it's more important to bring that consistency today than it was before. And so, yeah, it's a continuous process. And so trying to keep that in the front of all of our efforts each day and to try to have people understand why we're doing it. I really believe that, the next 30 years at USLI are better than the last 30. But I really, truly believe that if we don't keep that distinction of who we are and what we do, which is different than everybody else, it might not be the same opportunity. That's how I feel.
So, in your opinion, Tom, what still continues to slow the industry down, and what can carriers like USLI do to change that?
Well, we don't want to change that. We want them to get very burdensome and and much slower. I think turnover certainly is a factor within insurance companies. I mean, that turnover, that loss of intellectual capital that walks out slows down the process. The lack of training and development that companies have foregone, I think hurts them also because they can't necessarily bring and develop a bench. They're generally out there competing and stealing people from one another, right?
Right.
And that's different because when you come in with 25 years of experience, you come in with a way in which you did business and a belief in which you feel it should be done. And that doesn't necessarily coincide with what maybe the plan is here or any other place. And so I think all those things impact companies' ability to deliver what it is they're trying to do. I think they're all trying to be as the best they can be. But I do think that their lack of training and investment in people gives us a tremendous advantage.
So, it sounds like there's also a need to change and evolve, right, with the times.
You constantly have to be thinking about the future, right? And so you
Right.
have to be building something for the future. And so yeah. So I think education and the ability to take people in and train them and have them developed over a 2, 3, 4, 5 year period of time is crucial, not just to our underwriting efforts, but across all of our disciplines. So yeah, I think that's important.
And looking ahead to the next 5 years, how do you see our emphasis on speed, ease of use, and accessibility shaping the customer experience?
Man, that's a great question. I think we're undergoing change in our methodologies today, which I'm hoping will answer that question. Certainly we are looking at artificial intelligence. We are looking at all sorts of different technological things, review of processes, typically of what we've done in the past. Um, but we're also trying to make sure that the people component is maximized. And so we need to think in terms of how do we get the right submission to the right person instead of just having submissions come in and have them vetted through by an individual. That's going to be difficult for us to go from 1.6 million submissions to 4 million submissions. We're going to have to do a better job of vetting them out. We learned a lot of this stuff from other things. For example, on the phone, as we were developing that team, that was the number one issue. How do we train the right person for the right call that's going to come in? It didn't sound like a big problem when we initially set it out, but it became a huge monumental problem. But they figured it out. And so we have to figure that out on every platform. And so that's what we're working on today. And the email submissions is one that we have to figure that out. And we're working at it and we'll get to it. Uh-uh. But to me, the ease of use, the speed, the ease of use, and the accessibility, we have to try to make sure that as best we can, we bring it alive every day with every interaction. That's the magical moment, right? Because when the customer can depend on us, that consistency of performance leads to a dependency that they count on. And if they count on us, that is a brighter future for us. But if it's haphazard, then it's a harder fight. Then you have to kind of win that with other things, and that's not a good solution. So we don't want to win the business because we got to lower the price. So that's not a good answer.
Do you have any final thoughts, Tom, on that we can provide to our audience and taking away what we learned today about speed, ease of use, and accessibility?
Well, number one, the community has done a phenomenal job doing all the things we just talked about over the past 30 years. So they brought that to life, and they made the customers believe in us, and so we just got to keep working at that and keep understanding the value of that for everyone's future. I don't know that there is another sustainable competitive advantage that we can try and muscle other than those three things. And these three things are hard. They're very, very challenging, very difficult. But I think if we stay after it, we'll get there. And I think, yeah. So the future's bright if we just keep doing it.
Well, I want to thank you today for your time. It's been great to have you on this podcast. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. We hope that you will tune in to the next installment of InTrend. Until then.